All right, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to this regular called meeting of the Temple City Council. It's currently 5:11. Please rise as Rucker Preston leads us in the invocation, followed by Jan Llewellyn, who will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of them and all the decisions that are made and all of the deliberations here tonight so that they may best serve our community that serves you most. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is public comments. Any citizens who desire to address the council on any matter may do so as long as you signed up prior to this meeting and have legal standing to do so. No discussion or final action will be taken by the city council. First person that is signed up is Jim Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in here, I guess, to make a comment or two about what's going on Kegley Road, the Wildflower subdivision. There seems to be a great amount of angst about the traffic patterns that are going to happen on Wildflower Lane once the apartment complex, which they're at the corner of Kegley and West Adams, and then when this project of 29 acres plus, which is just the first initial phase, what impact it's going to have on Kegley, and also, more importantly, on Wildflower Lane. It seems like so much traffic is being directed towards Wildflower Lane. I don't believe originally, I'm sorry?
No.
Okay. I don't believe that it was originally construed to be a thoroughfare. As I look into West Temple and new additions in and around town, I see boulevards and I see traffic patterns and I see developments off to the flanks. That's not going to be the case with Wildflower. It's going to be a main thoroughfare, and we've always used the slogan of live, work, and play. Well, that's going to be diminished quite a bit because of the traffic and the walking and the older folks and the golf carts, the golf cart crossings, because of the amount of traffic through there. Other concern would be, what is the timeline of the completion of Kegley Road? Would be a question. And the second thing is Hogan Road. I'm not so sure what Hogan Road is going to do for us other than drive more traffic into Kegley and probably more consequentially into Wildflower Lane. What I've seen is that Hogan seems to stop there at Kegley, and there's a possibility of the continuation. Well, that's going to be light years ahead from what I've seen before in traffic considerations. So I'd like to get that on the record on my behalf and the Wildflower residents that more prompt attention would be given to, one, the Kegley Road completion, and then the impact or the lack of construction of plans for Hogan to continue on to the loop. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Vaughn, I see that you did not put down any contact information on this sheet.
Sorry.
Liz, would you please raise your hand? If you would, Ms. Caraway, if you'll give her your contact information, and someone from the city will be in touch regarding your questions. You bet. Thank you, sir. Next is it Fred Oborn?
Mr. Mayor, City Council, apparently this is all the same discussion that we're going to be having about Kegley Road and Wildflower. As we look right now, there are 400 units being put up on the corner of Kegley and Adams in an apartment complex. That traffic is now slated to either go into Kegley Road or in Adams, and anybody that lives off of Adams knows that during high traffic times, it's a mess on Adams to get on and off of it. So it's all going to be coming into Kegley, and Kegley then feeds right across either Sunflower Lane or Wildflower Lane to cut over to the loop. This is especially going to be true as we close down Kegley Road on the other end. So where's that traffic going to go? Where do you think that traffic is going to go? And that should have been part of the consideration of this. Now, when we redid Kegley Road, it's only a 3-lane, it wasn't a 4. That could have possibly happened. But now we're putting another 170 units on 20 acres of land is what is being proposed. So that's 29.9, but it also says in there that 25% of it is going to be used for one portion and 10% for another. So that cuts out 9 acres. So you're talking 170 units and all those cars coming. And then this is also tied to the 24-3-ZC, which is the other plat that's right next to this that is up for consideration. Right now it's in PZ, and that has been put off for several times in the past in order to address, I believe Hogan Road is involved in that more. So what we're looking at here is then, I don't know how many houses are going to be there, 600, 700, 800, I don't know. So then you're putting all that traffic directly onto Kegley Road. So when you look at the traffic that's going back and forth into Wildflower, and it's going to happen because every Friday evening or anytime you have any stoppage on the I-35, where does it go? I'm telling you, a lot of the residents of Wildflower can give you videos and showing the traffic coming down Wildflower at that time. It's just bumper to bumper closing down that. Now, what gets really interesting is when you have any type of construction or people parking their cars on the street, then that gets really narrow. I mean, you put 2 cars across the street from there, you can barely get a car through there. And we suspect that in the future, with this being approved, without consideration on what you're doing with the traffic, we believe that this should be taken care of, should be addressed by the council before we go forward anywhere. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. Thank you. Mr. O'Warren, same, you also did not leave any contact info?
I didn't see anything on there to do that.
Okay, well, there's a column there for that. That's fine. If you'll just give it to Ms. Caraway, that'd be great. Okay, third person to speak is Mr. Dan Kaser. And Dan, as we said, up here, you can speak on anything you'd like except for the pending litigation that you have with the city.
Okay, there is no pending. I will correct that, but you're the one running the show. It says here, a place you love to call home. I'm wondering why they have been doing such selective enforcement. The bookseller over there, we hired a man to bring in a pickup load of books, and for safety reasons, so he wouldn't have to walk out in Central, he backed into the spot. They gave him a ticket for parking the wrong direction. There's City of Temple vehicles parked back in, and then over there, Patterson's neighborhood on Nugent, all the cars are going against the traffic. Like if the traffic's going this way and this is coming this way, they pull over in front of their house. And I don't blame them for doing that, but there needs to be an exception. The city's, once again, the legal department's thing was there's loading ramps. That's why they make dollies. People shouldn't have to, if they're hired to deliver books to the bookseller, they shouldn't be expected to have to dolly stuff 4 or 5 blocks, just like whenever 18-wheelers are offloading at the convenience stores, they park in the center lane, which is technically against the rules or the violation, but they don't enforce it. And I'm just saying, for the sake of small businesses, it's a lot safer to back in to the spot out there in front of the bookseller than it is to be walking out in the traffic. Because he had a whole load of books and he needs to do it again, but were they going to give him a ticket every time? I don't know. But anyway, they may consider making an exception for unloading.
That seems reasonable. Thank you, sir. All right, next item is to receive a presentation on the fiscal year 2023 hotel motel tax collected in the amount of $122,557.09 from Mr. Commissioner Bill Schuman.
when I first read that, I thought it was 122 million.
We'll take that.
But as you know, the county rebates a certain percentage of the county tax that's collected back to the cities. And for 2023, that amount was $122,557. And happy to present that check to Ms. Barnard. I was told that I couldn't carry it very long. That I had to give it up. It's interesting, if you go back and look at 2022, that number was 105,146, and in 2021, it was 86,686. So Bell County and Temple are certainly growing, and the tourism business is alive and well. So Happy New Year.
Thank you, Commissioner Schuman. It's good to see you. Next item is a consent agenda. All items that are listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the
Thank you.
city council
They
and may
won't
be
let me
enacted
hold it
in
very
one
long
motion.
either.
If discussion is desired by any council member, that item can be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any council member and will be considered separately. Council, in workshop, we discussed various items that we did need to pull from the consent agenda for voting purposes. We decided on item 4H, 4J, 4M, and also 4P. So, council, if there's no discussion regarding the consent agenda, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda, which is items 4A through 4T, less items 4H, J, M, and P. Anybody have a
Yes,
motion?
I do.
Yep, that's
I
what.
do. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda minus H, J, M, and P.
Second.
You have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. We have a second by Councilmember Pilkington. Council, please cast your vote. Item 4A through T minus H, J, M, and P passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on to item H is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing a lease agreement with Charles Berger for T hangar number 76 at Drawn Miller Central Texas Regional Airport. We had a brief conversation regarding this item, and my understanding is Mr. Berger is no longer in need of that hangar. So, Ms. Davis, do we just simply table the item? Do we, and it'll just dies off? Okay, very good. Then, council, I'll entertain a motion on tabling item 4H.
I move to table item 4H.
Have a motion by Councilmember Grant. We have a second by Councilmember Pilkington. Council, please cast your vote. Item 4H to table passes. Item 4J is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing contract amendment number 4 to the professional services agreement with Randall Scott Architects Incorporated of Plano for the final design of an expansion of a municipal complex in the estimated amount of $1,441,729. We are not yet ready to, the city is not yet ready to move forward with this item. So I'll entertain a motion to table item J.
This should actually be a motion to postpone.
Okay. All right. Let me correct that. It's a motion to postpone.
I move to postpone item J.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Motion to postpone passes 5 votes to 0. Item 4M is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing a construction manager at risk agreement with Cloud Construction Company, Inc. of Temple for the expansion to the municipal complex. Council, I'll entertain a motion to postpone.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to postpone item M.
I'll second it.
Have a motion to postpone from Councilmember Long, second by Councilmember Walker. Council, please cast your vote. 4M passes 5 votes to 0. And last is the item 4P, which is a second and final reading to consider adopting an ordinance amending the PD ordinance 2004-3970 to allow minor vehicle servicing on approximately 1.305 acres located at the southeast corner of FM 93 and DeBose Road in the city of Temple. Bell County address is 3675 West FM 93. Council, this was pulled simply for voting purposes. I'm assuming, does anyone need a presentation on this or further discussion? If not, then I'll entertain a motion on item 4P.
Table or postponement?
This is just for separate voting purposes.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to look at item P for separate voting purposes.
I think we've already done that. I think now if no one needs a presentation, I think now we're doing.
Entertain a motion. Yep.
Okay, Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve item P.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Long. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Item 4P passes 4 votes yes, 1 vote no. Moving on to the regular agenda is a first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance approving a rezoning from ag to office 2 for a mixed-use development on 26.889 plus or minus acres in the city of Temple, Bell County, Texas. Addressed is 3426 West Nugent Avenue. Mr. Chandler.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. And the applicant and owner are both in the audience if y'all have questions after the presentation. And so this property is bounded by Kearley Road. And my understanding is that that's how it's pronounced. I've heard Curly as well, but I believe it's Kearley and Nugent Avenue. And so this is on the north side of, essentially nearby to TISD Kennedy Powell Elementary School. And so the proposal is for a mix of uses, a combination of warehouse office with some limited retail on the Nugent frontage, but also multifamily. And so the requested rezoning of office 2 allows all of those uses. Keep in mind that it allows up to 40 dwelling units per acre. They're not proposing at this point to have that level of density. And there are other regulations that would probably prevent that as well. It also allows 10 stories. However, they're not considering 10 or even 9 for that matter. I think right now they're looking at 2 or 3, but it's just in the conceptual stage at this point. There's also some existing manufactured homes on the site that would become non-conforming uses if the rezoning is approved, but they could remain as long as, that would be between the property owner and the tenants. However, they just could not replace those or expand. And so here you can see just zoomed out version of the location and then zoomed in aerial. And so here's the site, and here are some of the manufactured homes at the really at the entrance of this property. And this is the back side, and this is up towards the Meta development. And property to the east. And then on the south side of Nugent, you see some just traditional detached single-family homes. And north side, also some adjacent manufactured homes, a land lease community, and individual detached single-family homes on larger lots. And so on the west side of Kearley, you can see the farmland property to the north. That is construction staging related to the Meta project. And here is just a non-binding site plan. Just the applicant was willing for us to just show you kind of what they're thinking at this point. But once again, very conceptual. This shows 200 multifamily units, 13 flex warehouse, office warehouse type buildings. And they are shown in the red circle and would have primarily have access onto Kearley. The multifamily is shown there in blue, and then office and limited retail along Nugent. And so in terms of the uses, as mentioned, Office 2 allows all of the uses that we just went over. And then just looking at potential trip generation for multifamily, the office warehouse, and limited retail. You can see 1,046 multifamily daily trips onto Nugent, and office warehousing at 145, and then just down the list. And so in terms of compliance with the comprehensive plan, this area is shown as corridor mixed use in the pink, and that's with the Nugent frontage, and then business park on the backside. And so in working with the applicant, the property owner, to provide a concept that checks both of those boxes, but they're compatible with each other, in addition to compatible with other uses, existing surrounding uses. Nugent on the thoroughfare plan is a major arterial. And then in terms of trails, master plan, sidewalk ordinance, there's a proposed greenway trail at the northwest corner, and also a neighborhood connector trail along Nugent and Kearley. Minimum 6-foot sidewalk will be required along both sides of Nugent. And so certainly that would be addressed at the plating and permitting stage. Mobility master plan does not identify any conflict with the proposal. And then of course the sidewalk would be required as per UDC ordinance. Notice was printed in the newspaper on December 7th, and then property owners within 200 feet were mailed notices, and we received 1 response in favor and 2 in opposition. Our development review committee reviewed this proposal on December 4th as well. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission, with a vote of 5-1 at their December 18th meeting, recommended approval in line with staff's recommendation for approval as well, from ag to Office 2 rezoning. And happy to answer any questions. Mr. Don Poole, engineer for the project, is available if you have any technical questions about the project.
Thank you, Mr. Chandler. Council, any questions for Mr. Chandler?
Yeah, I read in the packet that there are height limitations because of the proximity to the airport. Just out of curiosity, what is that?
Good.
Like how many?
Yes, good question. I don't know the specific answer to the height limitation, but I can certainly check with our Sean Parker, our director of the
Yeah,
airport.
you
just to
you said
confirm.
up to 10 stories.
Yes, so I can tell you it's less than 10.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
but specifics I can get back with you.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Chandler, would you go back to the proposed site plan? So everything in this site plan would be new construction,
Correct.
correct?
Yep.
You have a number of multifamily units, 20 buildings, 200 total units. With other cases that we've had come before us, there's always concern, especially as you add more floors of, people that live in those buildings, maybe being able to peer into backyards and things like that.
Right.
But just to be clear, you said the allowed use is up to 10 floors,
Mhm.
right? I don't see us having a 10-story apartment complex
Right.
anytime soon. But at the same time, I don't believe there are any other residences around this.
3 homes
Some,
that face Nugent, right across the street from the school.
is that something that,
This one right here.
is that something that that needs to be addressed now as to possible building height for the privacy of those homeowners? And I know this is just a zoning
Sure.
case.
It certainly can be, and so that could be a simple motion to add the plan development for those specific reasons, whatever the conditions are, limiting the height or, orientation of balconies to adjacent single family or nearby single family uses, whatever those appropriate conditions might be. You all could make that recommendation to add the plan development with those conditions.
So going back to the chart,
Mhm.
I'm assuming that's 2 floors. Each building is,
They're looking at 2 or 3 floors.
okay. Okay. Well, I can't make a motion to council. That's something to think about during the motion process.
If you did want any of those restrictions, this would be the time to do it. Oh, because zoning would be the opportunity to, in terms of, once it's zoned, then, they would be able to build to any legal height if you don't have a plan development condition otherwise.
Perhaps we should just, I'm interjecting my comments now since this has been, the issue the mayor is raising has been an issue that I have had many calls about in other parts of the city. Perhaps we should just make it clear to the developers that this is something we are concerned about for the future, that privacy of abutters is of a real import.
Sure.
You better put it in a motion. Anything else, council? All right. Item 6. I lost my place. Item 5 is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. We just ask you step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, not your address. You don't have to do that, or raise your hand on the platform. No one? One in the audience? All right, very good. Council, I will entertain a motion on item 5.
Well, Mayor, since I will need help from legal, how you want this worded to satisfy you. I will make a motion to approve item 5, including just a memorandum or a note to the developer that we do have concern about visual overlap to abutting properties. Is that enough?
To memorialize council's desire that they
Okay.
consider this. I think that's fine. I think we
Okay.
understand what you mean.
But is there any teeth to the memorialization of that?
We would need a PD.
Mhm.
That's the question. Do you want it to be a requirement? If that's the case, we would need to start over with the PD. Since this is a straight Office 2 zoning, in order to put restrictions on it, you would need to go back and start with the PD. So do you want to have that requirement, or do you feel it's enough just to have council's desires made known, but not a requirement?
PD would have to go back and run through P and Z and everything.
Since it's more restrictive zoning, would they not be able to consider that tonight?
Yeah.
Since a PD would be more restrictive than what is noticed, would they not be able to?
I
consider-
don't think so. I think the notice would have had to have been different.
Well, I certainly don't want to surprise the people you've been working with, Brian, with this monkey wrench. I just interjected my comments following what the mayor's comments were.
That's why it's nice not to have to make a motion up here.
Thank you.
I left that
Mayor.
with you.
Mayor and
to bring-
council, I'd also note that Office 2 does allow duplexes by right. So if you rezone this without a PD and, the plans change, I'm not suggesting that this current developer has that intention, but as you well know, the zoning runs with the land. So if the property isn't feasible for some reason and changes hands, or even if this current owner decides to go in a different direction, any commitment that they're making that's not within if you do not do a plan development and put it as a condition, then you would have no guarantee related to that. Indeed, it would be developed as that site plan that Brian presented. It could be developed all as duplexes or any other allowed use that's allowed in O2. So, if you don't want it to be if you wanted some assurances about the specific land uses, then you would need to move forward with a PD.
And let me just say, I did speak with Brian here just a second, and he did say that we have done this in the past, since it is a more restrictive use, that we have allowed that in the past, to allow those restrictions without having to go back and start the PD process again. Is that correct?
But it still would be it wouldn't be a base zoning with restrictions. It would be a PD.
Correct.
We had for a while, we had a council member who was particularly concerned about duplex development in Office 2. And so they would routinely make a motion to change a straight O2 zoning to an O2 PD, just to add a restriction regarding duplexes on developments that didn't intend to be developed as duplexes, but they just wanted that assurance moving forward. So that is a past practice that we've had.
Brian, I turn to you, since you and your staff have worked with the developer.
Mhm.
I do not want to throw a monkey wrench at the last minute here, since you've been working with them. Where do you think, what do you recommend?
Well, I would recommend hearing from the applicant, but I think in terms of, to address that specific concern, a minimum of a plan development with a condition related to the multifamily to address, prevent the ability to see from the back of an apartment into a backyard. There are a number of ways where that can be done. Some of that could be limiting height in strategic locations, screening, limiting balcony locations, all that good stuff that we could certainly work with the developer on that. But in terms of anything else, I would certainly want to turn to the applicant developer and get their input.
May I make a suggestion? You might consider approving on first reading as presented, and with the direction to staff to work with the developer between now and the second reading. And then that way we could bring back some recommended conditions that would address the concerns that we've heard tonight, as well as be agreeable to the developer to ensure that, the project that within reason could move forward. That might be, instead of trying to adjudicate it right now, Brian and his team could work with the developer over the next couple of weeks and bring back something to you on second reading.
Well, I'm much more comfortable with that, because it gives time for communication rather than just dumping it in somebody's lap
Right.
out of the blue tonight.
Sure.
Is the developer here?
Yes, we're here.
Do you understand what we're talking about, our concerns, and in the end, my concern that we're not just throwing something at you out of the blue?
No, most definitely. We intend to put some kind of setback for any neighboring properties.
Can we not have a conversation? Sir, would you mind coming to the podium? I'm sorry. Conversations across the room are a little strange. And we also want to be sure and get your comments on the recording. Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
It's probably better. I'm the applicant, Don Poole. This is developer.
Bruce Griffin.
Well, again, I just want to reiterate that I don't want to throw something at you out of the blue. If it's somewhat agreeable with you, we can make that motion that you work with our staff for the second reading. Are you flying around the ceiling and rotating out of here, or
No,
is
ma'am.
that something we can work forward?
Definitely. We appreciate the opportunity to work with staff to develop those conditions if that's what council would prefer. We're plenty fine with that.
Good.
We're living houses as well. We don't want condos in our backyard either.
Good.
So
Thank you very
We're
much.
very
I-
amenable to some setbacks. if required.
The district I represent has been faced with this issue several times, and it's very, very unsettling. So thank you for working with our staff for the second reading.
I'd be glad to. It'd be good. Yeah, we're fine with that.
Thank you.
Any
Gentlemen,
other questions or we're good?
anything else while they're up here? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So I guess then if there are no other comments, I need to revise whatever my motion was before. And again, I need assistance from you, Brian and Kathy.
I think at this point, this is the motion to approve with the requirement that staff discuss with the applicant, the possibility of setbacks for multifamily.
Okay. I will remake the motion on item 5 under the regular agenda. Motion to approve with the caveat that staff works with developers to look at setbacks and visual controls in anticipation of the second reading when that comes about.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilmember Long. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Item 5 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 6 is the first reading of public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance approving a rezoning from commercial to multifamily dwelling 1 on 0.1983 plus or minus acres addressed as 2301 Valley Forge Drive. Mr. Chandler.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And if this sounds vaguely familiar, that's because this is the third rezoning request by this same property owner. And I will show you in a second, the neighboring properties were also non-conforming uses, multifamily in a commercial zoning district. And so if they were destroyed, the other two were destroyed, then they couldn't be rebuilt. This one actually was destroyed by a fire. And so there's a little more urgency to rezone this to be able to rebuild. And so they're requesting multifamily 1 to allow a new quadplex or fourplex. And so you look at the zoning map and you can see the tan colored next to the crosshatch site. And those are the other properties owned by the same gentleman that were previously rezoned. And you can see too that there is still a lot of red surrounding this property. And so this is something that we are looking at for potential city initiated rezoning to be able to make sure that we have compliant multifamily within this commercial area. But this is also subject to a neighborhood plan that is soon on the horizon. And so we will look at the land use questions there as well. And so here's the property facing west from Betsy Ross, and then going clockwise, top left-hand corner to clockwise the others, facing northwest from Valley Forge, and then southeast from the intersection, and then facing south on Betsy Ross Drive. And so the utilities, of course, that it was a functioning fourplex, so utilities are there. And future development plan identifies this area as residential and neighborhood service. Certainly compliant. Newspaper notice was printed on December 7th, and 20 notices were sent out to property owners within 200 feet. 2 were received in agreement and none in disagreement. And so staff is recommending approval from commercial to multifamily 1 rezoning.
Thank you, sir. Council, any questions for Mr. Chandler? At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on item 6, this is the time to do that. If you would step to the podium and state your name or raise your hand on the platform. None. I will close the public hearing on item 6 and council entertain a motion.
To approve item 6 as presented.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington, a second by Councilmember Grant. Council, please cast your vote. Item 6 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 7 is to consider adopting a resolution approving the final plat of Wilma's Way, a 20.04 plus or minus acre, 30 lot, 2 block residential subdivision with an exception to section 8.2.1.d.4 of the Unified Development Code related to projection of streets and an exception to the cul-de-sac design standards situated in the city of Temple, Bell County, Texas, addressed as 1867 Old Waco Road. Mr. Chandler.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And so here's the vicinity map. This is on the east side of Old Waco Road, so future section of the outer loop, and a zoomed in version of that. And you may recall that this was rezoned within the last year. Wilma's Way is the subdivision. And so it's 20.04 plus or minus acres. It's a 2 block, 28 residential and 2 non-residential lot subdivision. And so when you look at the plat at the bottom of the screen, you can see the 2 non-residential lots that were zone neighborhood service. And we are here because of the 2 exceptions that were read into the item description. The first one is related to road openings or street projections at an average of every 1,000 feet. And because you have Pawpaw Lane on the south, that certainly meets the code requirements, but to the north, without a street projection, requires an exception. And so staff is supporting that one. The second is the cul-de-sac size. So you see number 2, well, the middle cul-de-sac essentially is smaller than the terminal cul-de-sac on the east. They're supposed to match by the cul-de-sac standards from engineering. And so these are exceptions that are supported by staff, the city engineer with consultation with the fire marshal as well. And the plat was reviewed by the Development Review Committee on February 1st, 2023, and deemed administratively complete or filed December 18th of this past year. And so here you can see the utility services. There's a 24-inch water line along Old Waco Road. Will provide water using 6-inch line to the lots. Sewer is not available without a lift station, which is just not economically feasible for a development of this size. And so septic is the only option. Staff supports that due to the unique circumstances and the slope, which would require the lift station. And so at the meeting on Tuesday, I should say, 2 days ago, how quickly I forget, Planning and Zoning voted 6-0 to approve the plat with those 2 exceptions in line with staff's recommendation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, sir. Council, anything for Mr. Chandler? All right, there being nothing, council, I'll entertain a motion on item 7.
I'll make a motion to approve item 7.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. We have a second by Councilmember Pilkington. Council, please cast your vote. Item 7 passes 5 votes to 0. It is 5 minutes until 6. Thank you all for attending.